Now, X News is Kenya's first ever free daily newspaper. It's set off something of a trend, however, but its entry in the first place is backing quite a few African media trends, especially given the surge in circulation. In Grassroots tonight, we feature this new evening newspaper in the Kenyan capital that has emerged as the third largest paper in Kenya within just 3 months of its launch.
X News is a free afternoon newspaper for Nairobi. Free newspapers are well established the world over. From New York to London, Paris, my hometown of Melbourne, Hong Kong, free newspapers are changing the way that print media works. And they're well established, so the idea was simply to do something that's that successful and quite well done elsewhere and introduce it into the Nairobi market. Because the Nairobi market has a very profitable newspaper industry, but it's not very vibrant. So we thought that we'd introduce what's a well-proven product into a marketplace that looks like it needs something new. What do you think of these photos and winning captions and stuff? It's very current, it's very precise, and it covers issues that are relevant to young professional Nairobians. So it doesn't dwell on politics, which the others do, but it's a daily edition of news that's relevant to today. And very accessible. So short, sharp news, ready to go. People generally pick it up more than 3 times a week. They're very unhappy if they don't get it on the day that they miss out on. And we've got a lot of feedback about the fact that the business is the news and the business news actually is very accessible and very relevant. So they're really happy with the relevance, really quite happy with less politics. And they also like the fact that there's lots of kind of unique insights and stories in our paper which you don't get in the main ones. So it keeps them very happy for the commute home from work. We speak to the young urban audience, so our research says that 60% of our audience is youth, 90% of them are LSM 8 and above, which basically means they're affluent, they have money in their pockets. So we have a very, very targeted distribution, and that's what we do. Nobody does that exactly, so we don't really see that there's any competition, although there are similar products around and they can learn things from us and we can learn things from them. But we're focused on delivering the youth. Hiring staff is always tough, and especially if you're a startup, you have to go from zero to full working company in no time at all. So naturally you make some mistakes. But we're looking basically for young, energetic people, and especially in the newspaper industry, it's a bit sort of dusty and old-fashioned. And we had some experiences of looking to hire people with 25, 30 years of their CV. But what we found is they didn't really have 30 years of experience. They had 1 year 30 times over. So they weren't flexible, they weren't agile, they weren't able to produce the kind of paper that we're producing. So our managing editor is 30 years old, and he's actually old for his team. So we've got a young, dynamic bunch of journalists which really produce a great product. And they're really passionate, really, really passionate about it. I mean, the team will go to war. So people with youth, energy, passion, and the ability to tell a story. Most newspapers don't actually make their money out of the cover price. They make their money out of advertising. If you're a new newspaper in the market and you want to build a decent number of readers and build your circulation, it could take 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 years before you get enough people wanting to buy your newspaper that an advertiser wants to buy advertising off you. So reducing the cover price means that we can get to those high numbers. As I say, we have 30,000 copies a day, probably 300,000 readers a day, and advertisers are interested in that once that's a proven number. So we make our money through advertising revenues. And there's an expected delay between hitting the streets and people advertising. So the shareholders of the company have invested money to make sure we have working capital to do that. Well, I think this is a fascinating initiative. It's so enjoyable, it's very disruptive, it's very innovative. I was speaking to somebody who's quite senior in the industry just this morning, and he said, you are turning this place on its head. And that's quite good fun, obviously. So I like doing that. I like being able to sit with my team, who are very energetic and capable people, and say, we can do it better than everybody else, how will we do it? Having said that, of course, you mentioned I have a strategic investment partner and they need to see return on investment, so we need to make sure that we make money as well.